Well, thank you very much, Shaylin, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be surrounded by so many global leaders. The work of Inclusiva has really informed so many of us in our work over a long period of time to improve outcomes for people with disabilities and the whole community. Let me begin by giving a brief description. I am an older disabled woman with gray hair pulled back. I'm wearing red and gold glasses, a blue shirt, and I have the background of my organization, the World Institute on Disability, as my background. My pronouns are she and her. I want to begin by saying I think the opportunity to talk about environmental justice and disability is an under-discussed opportunity. And I would hope that this is the beginning of an ongoing dialogue that really needs to intertwine and integrate many other aligned issues. So I'm going to first talk a little bit about the challenges of siloing the work that we're doing. So environmental justice, and Chloe gave a wonderful overview of the work that she and Sebastian have been doing, their findings, and I think she made a good case that I'm going to reinforce. We are globally working on climate justice, environmental justice, the Sustainable Development Goals, human rights, disability justice, equity, accessibility, disaster risk reduction, and the Sendai framework, the Paris Accord, resilience, development, preparedness, response, reconstruction, mitigation, humanitarian action. I could go on and on and on. All of these are opportunities to address a very urgent crisis that we've all been aware of for quite some time, and I think others are becoming more aware. And for people with disabilities, as both Shaylin and Chloe pointed out, we're talking about at least 15% of the global population, over 1.3 billion people globally. And for those of us who are doing this work in support of, on behalf of, in centering and in lifting up that 1.3 billion plus people, it is almost impossible for us to adequately influence each of these siloed areas of work to benefit the whole community and improved justice for all. One of the we've had to fight so hard to get people with disabilities included in the language of the big overarching global commitment documents. And even just getting disability included, we have often included people with disabilities as a vulnerable group, or somehow as a liability to this process. People who are fragile, or people who are seen as needing to be planned for. And we need to shift what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're approaching it, to recognize the strengths and leadership of people with disabilities and disability-led organizations. My organization, the World Institute on Disability, is one of the oldest disability rights organizations in the world, founded just about 40 years ago. We were founded by people with disabilities, and we've been continually led by people with disabilities. Well over 51% of our staff and our board are people with disabilities, and we are not the recipients of other people's charity and kindness. We are the leaders in establishing the policies and changing the paradigms that are so necessary as our climate continues to be at risk of further devastating deterioration. There are globally countless organizations, big and small, that are like the World Institute on Disability, led by people with disabilities. Some of these organizations are called Disabled Persons Organizations, DPOs. Some are called Organizations of Persons with Disabilities, OPDs. And some are called Disability-Led Organizations, DLOs. What we all have in common is that people with disabilities are the decision makers, and that we are not the recipients of benevolence and charity. We are the people who are at the lead in making change. We need to recognize that people with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by the failures of climate, environment, the disasters, conflict. We are disproportionately impacted, and especially those among us who are people of color, people who are LGBTQIA+, women, children, older persons, people who experience poverty, people who are houseless. There's a long list of people who are multiply marginalized and disproportionately impacted. And so as we continue to address the challenges of the environmental justice needs, that we are all that we are so in need of continuing to center. It is imperative that disability-led organizations are not only at the table, but that we are in fact at the center of the table, and that our knowledge and expertise is a driving element of the change that needs to happen for our whole community. So thank you very much for having me, and I will turn back to Shaylin. Thank you.